Happy Martin Luther King Day, everybody. I want to talk today about a thing that happened in 1992 called the Watts Truce. Growing up in Los Angeles in the 70s and 80s, there were two very fearsome gangs called the Crips and the Bloods. The Crips wore blue bandanas and the Bloods wore red bandanas. They had been at war in Los Angeles for decades. They formed in the early 70s and 80s and 90s. All through the 80s, they were every day in the news, you'd hear about somebody being shot because of this gang war that was going on here in LA. But then in 1991, two things happened. The first was in March of 1991, the very highly publicized Rodney King beating. And as an aside, I went to high school with the guy who did most of the beating. Anyway, that happened right after the emergence of new technology called the Handycam. They were big and you held them on your shoulder back then. And you could buy them they were kind of expensive, but as soon as this technology emerged into the market, somebody filmed a police beating, and it made the nightly news for a long time, especially here in Los Angeles. Now, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I'd been hearing rumors about police brutality in LA, but because the police had much better access to the media and better access to government, they were able to control the message. And so they massaged the truth and prevented certain things from getting out to the media. So me, as a goofy white Christian guy in Los Angeles, I believed that the police were the good guys. But then, as soon as this new technology emerged and somebody filmed a dude getting beat by the police, a black man getting beaten by the police, suddenly it cast a doubt in my mind. Oh, maybe these things have been right all along. So this message was not lost on black people either, nor the two gangs, the Crips and the Bloods. And while those police were in custody awaiting trial, a second thing happened. In November of 1991, a very innocent man by the name of Henry Pico was gunned down ruthlessly by police in a Watts housing project. There wasn't any video evidence of this, unfortunately, but a lot of eyewitnesses saw it, and the story of what happened to Henry Pico spread like wildfire through the community, including the Crips and the Bloods. And it was around that time that both the Crips and the Bloods started realizing they had a bigger enemy than each other, and it was the Los Angeles police force. So on April 28th, 1992, the Crips and the Bloods met at a mosque, and they ceremoniously tied their red and blue bandanas together and formed a truce. And since it was 1992, it was known as the 9-Deuce Truce, and it lasted for a long time. It was a little shaky at first, but then the truce held, and it lasted really strongly for 10 years, and parts of it last to this day. Have you picked up the metaphor I'm going with? Those red and blue bandanas tie coincidentally into the red and blue of the United States of today. A police helicopter is coming straight for me right now. Seriously, he's gone now. So us Republicans and Democrats have been at each other's throats for decades. And just like the Crips and the Bloods, I'm starting to come to the conclusion that the Republicans are not my real enemy. And I hope that you Republicans are also coming to the conclusion that us Democrats are not your real enemy. The real enemy are these oligarchs who've been controlling the message. There's a very small handful of men who have been using their large amounts of money to warp the message to their benefit at our expense. And what just happened yesterday on TikTok is more clear evidence that these oligarchs are controlling the message in such a way as to get all of us users who use this medium to communicate. The algorithm is corralling us into bitterly opposed camps. In the meantime, what's happening to both of those camps is that we're getting shitty health care, a very, very wide wage gap between the top and us, and the rising prices of our essential goods. Why are those things happening? Because of the oligarchs. Not Republicans, not Democrats. It's the rich billionaires who are taking advantage of the divide. Because as long as they do that, we stop paying attention to them. Do you think it's time for a truce? I do, because our enemy has been made crystal clear.